Hey, we're going to have a quick reflection on November, then a reflection on the year to date.
We had our second best month ever. They come in to win. And we have winners, every single one of our managers.
Is failure essential for career development?
You have to screw up. You have to. We screw up every single day. If you don't, how are you going to learn? Our company's not for everyone. The way we apply ourselves, the way we run, it's not for everyone. We strive for excellence in everything that we do. I'd love to take a bet with all our managers against anyone else in the whole of Dubai.
You've both built insanely successful teams and set relentless standards and demand exceptional leaders. What traits do you look for in your leaders?
Well, they've got to buy into our vision of what we want. We love opinions and we want them to be opinionated.
Moving on to the podcast. So today we're going to have a quick reflection on November, then a reflection on the year to date, and then we're going to take a bit of a different course in terms of, I guess, our views in terms of building success, leading teams, cultures, continued development and learning, etc. So first of all...
have we done that before? Have we ever done something like this before? We haven't, have we?
Don't think so.
I'm surprised we haven't done something like this because it's, I think, as far as we're concerned, and I'll go off on a tangent here, but as far as we're concerned, it's probably the most important part of our business and how we've, in the last 16 years, built what we've built.
In terms of the culture, developing people?
Yeah.
I'd like to think so. But
So I'm just surprised that, especially like Lewis and Carl, I've never done one. I haven't seen it, but it'll be interesting this, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, let's hope we nail it then.
And
Okay, so starting off, looking at November, you got some highline stats and information for us?
Do you want All Sop and All Sops, or do you want DLD?
November, say let's do All Sop and All Sop. Year to date, let's look at the DLD, then we can give everyone a reflection of the market.
I actually touched on it last week with Carl, the November results for All Sop and All Sop. We had our second best month ever. It was actually back to back. In October was our second best, and then in November we surpassed that. We done our second most amount of sales transactions as well. As a total, we'd done just shy of 800 deals. There was actually a 51% increase in revenue, which this year is a significant jump from the next best month year on year. We done 1 billion dirhams worth of value as well. We contributed 1 billion dirhams worth of value. And it was a record month for developer sales. It was a record month for our Jumeirah Golf Estates department, a record month for our Business Bay team, Business Bay. And there was one more, going to kill me. I can't remember who it was now. But there was another department, I think.
Richard?
It was Richard and his team, yeah. So there was 4 departments who actually had a record month, which is...
So as a quick recap for anyone who didn't watch the pod last week, what's kind of the 30 to 60 second analysis of why that would be?
In November.
What's happened in the market? November and back-to-back October, November. What's happening out there?
Well, do you know what, Paul? This dependence on December, it'll be our best quarter, I think our best quarter ever. I was talking about before to Lewis and Carl, and I just think people now are that they're missing the boat. But if people aren't buying, there's going to be a time where it's going to get away from people. So I think now a lot of guys want to get in the market a lot quicker. You look, let's say 5 or 6 years ago, there was a transition period. People would come over, they'd spend 2 or 3 years renting, and then they would see how they got on, how the children got on in schools and everything else. But I think now with the way Dubai has gone and the coverage it's getting worldwide, people want to be part of it. You know, the amount of people coming into country is a lot more than what it has been over the last few years. And still, I know, listen, there's a lot of launches that have happened over the last 3 or 4 years, but from people coming into country against how many properties are handing over, it's still a significant undersupply. Whether that changes in a few years' time is another thing, but I just think, Paul, people want to get on the ladder. People want to start because the amount of money that people are making, and not just that as well, is that people want to set up shop here. People want to live here because of all the reasons that we've said so many times before.
I saw an interesting stat before. The population over the last 10 years of Dubai has increased by 44%. So the population of anywhere to increase by nearly 50% over a 10-year period is huge. And I don't actually know the figure, but I'd be really intrigued to see what percentage of that is from mid-2020 onwards, so mid-COVID onwards, because as we know, that the city's exploded
I
since
think we're
then.
at 3.8. We are 3.8 now, and the plan is to get to close to 6 million before 2030. Listen, I think they're on track. And I said the other day, one thing that people like about this place, and we go on about it internally, having a pathway. They set out a vision, and they always give you timelines on when they want to complete it by. And more often than not, Paul, they tend to get it right, don't
Well,
they?
you know that when Dubai and the government set something out, it's all guns blazing to achieve it. Yeah, it's not a pie in the sky. By 2033, we want to do this, and we'll just trickle along and see how it goes. You know, once they've said that all the attention is on achieving the goal.
Look at the road. Don't get me wrong, the roads are mad busy now. But you look at I went to where they go. Yes, I went to JBR for the first time in probably 6 or 7 months. There's a new road on Garn Al Sabke. So to get from now where we live to Garn Al Sabke used to take maybe 20, 25 minutes. They've probably reduced that by another 10 minutes. Yeah. Granted, it wasn't peak hours, but it was like, wow, where's this come from? It's the same on Al Khail and
Hester Street.
Yeah, it's going to reduce the traffic, but there's still a lot of cars on the road, which is great for us.
Okay, let's have a look at. I'm going to read some stats out from the year to date from the Land Department. So year to date, as we're filming this, 391 billion dirhams worth of properties sold in 2024. And that is made up of 155,000, just over 155,000 different transactions. Comparing that to the same stage last year. Last year at this stage, there was 118,000 transactions and 316 billion dirhams worth of property sold. So huge increase, goes in line with what we've been saying.
Any idea, question for you here, any idea how many of their, up in terms of percentage-wise, was sub 3 million dirhams?
No.
78%.
I was going to guess, but yeah, I didn't know the exact stat. Yeah.
78% of properties that are sold sub 3 million, which again, I know there's a lot of hype with, especially with the $10 million mark and above, but still, and it's year in, year out and month in, month out, the 3 million dirhams, sub 3 million dirhams make up the lion's share of what our market is.
Well, that fits in line with, I'll give you the apartment stats. So in 2023 year to date, there was 92,299 apartment transactions. This year so far, the 126,060 apartment transactions, which is an increase of 36.5%, which is huge. And we always talk about this, or I've certainly talked about it before on the pod. For me, this is brilliant because it's a sign of a maturing market. Obviously, the super prime gets the headlines, the incredible villas that we see out there, and the amount of wealth that's pouring into Dubai is always a headline grabber. But for me, the sign of a healthy property market is that 78% of transactions under 3 million, apartments ruling the waves really, because that's how people get on the property ladder.
Well, you look at, like you say, you look at the majority, let's say, let's look at areas first. So I think every month this year, the top 3 areas for the amount of properties sold, Business Bay, predominantly apartments, around that sweet spot between, you won't get much for $1 million dirhams, but between $1 million and 3 million dirhams. The same with JVC. Listen, JVC was always talked about as, I'm not going to say the word that people used to think about it, but where it's located, what you're getting for your dollar now is very, very good value. A lot of independent developers coming into the market and people jumping onto, like you say, with the sustainability and everything else. But they're all sub 3 million dirhams. Like you say, it's because it's still, and again, I know prices have gone from what they were to what they are now, but it's still affordable, Paul. You know, I think one stat that I saw as well, I think this time last year, we've sold less, not as a business, but whole of Dubai market have sold less $10 million properties than what this time last year, if that makes any sense. So by the end of the year, it'll be less than what was sold last year. So again, like you say, it's a very sustainable market, I believe. I honestly do believe that. It is a maturing market as well, but it's still, like I say, it's not. Properties that are coming online now or launches, they're still affordable for people to jump on the ladder.
Definitely. To round off the stats, or the high-level stats, and then I'll ask you for a prediction. Villa and townhouse sales last year at this point were just over 26,000. This year so far, 29,485 So 13.5% increase in villa townhouse sales as well. So that's the year 2024 so far. What's your early predictions for 2025?
I think we said at the start of the year about single-digit growth, and
He's been blown away looking at those stats.
It's safe to say it's gone way past that. I still believe there's not enough townhouses, Paul. Like you say, you look at the stats from apartments versus villas and townhouses. I'd love to see more launches for the townhouse market and for the villa market. I still think we're going to see growth Q1. And again, people ask me about this bubble, and listen, it's not happening. I don't care what anyone says. And again, I'll support every time I come onto these posts. I'll probably repeat myself, and I'm sorry for doing this, but it's still, in my opinion, very, very, very affordable for what we have, the vision that this city has at this moment in time compared to all the major cities far outweighs anything across the world. And I mean that. It's the best city in the world to live in. And for that, the amount of people that are coming in, but the affordability as well, Paul. I think we're at a high now of, I think it's just shy of 1,500 dirhams per square foot is an average price for purchase. That works out at, let's say, 350 English pounds, which you go to any major city, you're not getting a shoebox for that in the outskirts of London or the outskirts of Hong Kong. So the high net worth individuals who are coming in and they're seeing what they're getting for the amount of money that they're getting, they're just thinking, wow, this is still so affordable. So, again, in my opinion, I think you've got to be quick. I honestly do believe that before prices do get away with you. And I can see the first Q1 and Q2, I think it's only going to be much of the same.
Yeah, and I'd say on this price per square foot, it's not just a property you're getting, it's a lifestyle you're getting over here. All the purpose-built communities are built for people to enjoy their lifestyle. Okay, so moving on, we've got some, I've got notes here of things we're going to talk about. The first one is under building success. We've actually got a question from Carl and Lewis. They've said, you've both built insanely successful teams and set relentless standards and demand exceptional leaders. What traits do you look for in your leaders?
I think they have to, first of all, they've got to buy into our vision of what we want. We love opinions and we want them to be opinionated. I think they have to, and you look at we have a meeting a managers meeting every second Wednesday of the month. And in there, Paul, you've got, let's say around 12 people. We've diluted it slightly. And of them 12 people, I think every single person in there's been with the business 7 years or more. Now, for me, I don't know about you, but the loyalty aspect of our business is probably up there with, if not number one, it's definitely in the top three. So the loyalty side of things. And we like to promote within as well, because obviously they know the business. They obviously know yourself and me, and more importantly, the lads up top. So the loyalty side of things is so important. And listen, just being, I always have this thing where I love people who come to work. And what I mean by that is, listen, some of them play really hard when they're outside the way, but when they're in here, they would walk through a brick wall for anyone in this company. I mean, the owners of the business and us as well. And they come in to win. And we have winners, every single one of our managers. And whilst you think, well, hold on, how do you know what a winner looks like? I think we're very good in identifying what a winner is. And you look at that management team when they come in every second Wednesday of the month, and it's full of winners. It's full of people who want to compete. It's full of people who want to be number one. They don't settle for number two. I've just had not an argument, but a debate with one of our managers. And all that he's doing that for, because he wants his team to be number one. And we strive for, I know it sounds a little bit cliched, but we strive for excellence in everything that we do. And if we don't do that, then isn't it not good enough? It probably is not good enough, because we want best in class. And I feel, Paul, listen, there's so many good companies at the minute out there, really, really good companies. But listen, I'd love to take, if I was a betting man, I'd love to take a bet with all our managers against anyone else in the whole of Dubai. What about you?
Definitely. By the way, I don't know if that question was by Carla Lewis. It doesn't say it. I just like to think that was their comment. I look for a number of things: personality, character, attitude, willingness to learn and self-develop, and work ethic, I'd say, to summarize them. And we're blessed throughout the company to have managers that encapsulate all these attributes and qualities. And obviously skill set depending on the department, Sergi, for example, our CTO, you couldn't just hire him because he's a nice person who works hard. He has to have a skill set. But for me, I'd say those characteristics slightly outweigh the skill set, because as we all know, you can be the most talented person in the world, but if your character, personality, attitude, etc., isn't there, it's not going to work for you. I'd prefer to have a slightly lower, and this isn't against Sergio or anyone else, but just a general philosophy, a slightly lower skill set, but someone who's got that drive, determination, that willingness to learn, that competitiveness, that desire to be the best that they can be, because the skill set will come after that. But you can't. Those characteristics are more stuff you can't. It's hard to learn or hard to put into someone. Whereas you can always look to self-develop and improve the skill set.
I think recently, as you touched on it just then, I think in recent years, the one of the big things for me is the willingness to learn. Listen, I'm probably older than a lot of people in this business, and change for me was always a bit of an issue. But now we have to embrace it. With the technology that we bring in, the technology. Look at AI now, it's taking over the world. You've got to embrace it, because if you don't embrace it, then you've got a big, big issue. But I'd like to think the majority, all of our managers, they're always willing to learn. They're always looking to evolve and innovate more importantly. But like you say, the work ethic thing for me, and when we get our new starters coming in, and we have a talk with our new starters every single month. And what we'll tend to find is we say the same things, and our top performers, they still would outwork, I believe, the majority of our new starters, just because, again, that willingness to win. And it's from a competitive background, Paul. I don't know, or they just don't want to lose, and that's what I want. That's the most important thing for me.
So we're talking a lot about results there, and really people's desire and competitiveness to win. So here's one to throw at you. When we're looking for a leader or a manager, people person, or to pose a question, are we looking for a people person or results machine? Which one matters the most?
As a leader?
Yeah.
Good question, that.
Yeah. It's not really black or white, is it?
Because let's say a results-driven person can be... It's a really, really tough one, because I love people. Because as soon as you have someone that a team will buy into, it will almost be a byproduct of a result. If you've got a manager, and listen, there's got to be a fine line, because at the end of the day, the manager's the one who leads. But if you've got a manager who no one likes, you'll tend to find that 9 times out of 10, they won't want to work for that person. Do you know what I mean? But they have to have an element as well of a results-driven, hungry person who doesn't accept second best for anyone. But once you lose that element of people skills with people, I just think everything else falls down, Paul. That's the way I feel. And like you say, you look at our management team; they are all top people. It's. I can't think of anyone who no one in their team doesn't buy into what their vision is.
No, I agree with you. So then, great leaders, can they be built, born, or spotted? And can they be nurtured?
I think they're born. I think leaders are born. I think there's a difference between a leader and a manager. I do believe that.
A big difference, yeah.
But with leaders, it's definitely 100%. But I don't think they can be manufactured.
So what about managers then?
I think they can definitely be taught 100%. Listen, when I look at my experience, Lewis and Carl took a punt on me 100%, because the first couple of years I found it quite difficult as a broker, and then obviously done okay. But they took a punt on me becoming the sales director, because I was aggressive on the phones, and not that I wasn't. I've always been a people person, but there was no managerial skills there as such, because I never managed a team. But they, I think, identified the loyalty side in me, and they identified that I was good with people. Obviously, I had a good relationship with them. But as a manager, I think you can be nurtured 100%. We've seen some of our best, not saying mediocre agents, but we've seen agents who may have not been number one and have gone on to become managers and have been exceptional. And that's learning from the likes of yourself, the likes of Lewis and Carl, the likes of whoever it may be. But as a leader, I think you're either born or you're not.
Yeah, I just think that's a fair observation. But managers think definitely nurtured. There's not a manager in the business, including me and you, who's just been a manager and on day one being a great manager. I don't even say we're great managers now. I think there's loads of learning and development still to do.
I think your family life as well. I think obviously we've got the majority of our managers have got children now, and I think you put things into perspective a lot as well, don't you? I think you learn that way. I honestly do believe with your home life. I know our wives don't like us saying this, but obviously we take our job home take our job home. And I think now we may become a little bit more, not softer, but some things may not be as important as they were. So you have more of an umbrella approach,
more of a perspective.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, the next little section's called No Pain, No Gain. So the first comment we're being asked is, it said you learn more from screw-ups than you do success. Is failure essential for career development?
Do we ever... I don't think we've ever celebrated, or if I can't even remember, our success. When me and you talk about it all the time, we have to. And we're always picking all the time and on negatives, maybe from our own performance, negatives and holes in what we've done that previous month or the previous week. And I think that's, from where we are today, Paul, I think it's why we are at that point. You know what I mean? It's you have to screw up. You have to, we screw up every single day. If you don't, how are you going to learn? You know, there's times when you just go home, you think, what have I done? You know, it might be on a pod, it might be with a member of staff, it might be you've reacted to something that you shouldn't have reacted from. But listen, we've got too many good people around us for us not to learn from that, you know what I mean? And you have to screw up, Paul. I'm sure you agree with that.
I 100% agree. And the next question is, how do you create a culture where failure isn't feared but embraced? And my take on that is your comments just then. You set an environment where failure is encouraged, it's talked about. Maybe celebrated is the wrong word, because you obviously don't want to celebrate failing, but where it is accepted, and an environment and a culture where we do appreciate that you can only grow through failure. It's the best learning experience.
See, sometimes, and I've learned this with maybe a couple of departments over the last couple of years, is where we see a department that's doing well, and until you get into the nitty-gritty of that specific department, only can you see that it's not doing too well. So sometimes when you see a failure, or you do see a little bit of a mishap, and you do a little bit of deep diving, you go, wow, I've missed this here. And then you elevate again. Like one of our departments, I can, off the top of my head, over the last 12 months, that team has gone from strength to strength, just based on a couple of little tweaks that we've done. And I'm not saying failure as such, but it's just little things that we've seen and identified and just made things better.
I think it's how you look at failure as well. Failure doesn't have to mean the world's ended and everything's come crashing down around you, and et cetera, et cetera. There's lots of ways to fail. I
think once we start stifling that, Paul, as well, once you start people who want to innovate and they come with different ideas, and I think you want to embrace ideas from members of staff as well. One thing that I've learned over the last couple of years is some of the best ideas have come from our brokers. And there'll be 5 ideas that they throw on the table, and they don't go anywhere.
But if you fear failure as well, you will never innovate.
Never.
Because you'll always be too conscious of doing something wrong, and you stay in this fixed mindset of, okay, well, this is safe. We'll just carry on doing this. Can a mistake be too big to bounce back from?
Being negligent in a decision, and we've seen in the past where people have been negligent within, and I think we can't bounce back. Of course we can. But like I said before, I think we've got that many people around us, and that's our strength. Our strength, again, goes from right the way through, not just the people who own the business, right the way through our company. There's always someone there who will have an answer. There'll be someone who will, whether it be, whether it be a personal thing or whether it be a work thing, there's always someone there who you can lean on, because, again, we always say we employ people who are better than us at what we do. And there's always someone around us who will get us through that. Like I say, with the exception of negligence, of course.
I think, I agree. Mistakes can't be too big to bounce back from. If you bring negligence or maybe malice or something along those lines, and maybe it is, but a genuine mistake, I think we can all make them, can't we?
Did you ever, I don't know how long ago back, did you ever dwell on mistakes, or did you ever dwell on things that were hanging over your head?
Yeah.
I used to do terrible, really bad. No, I've never been anxious, or I've never got stressed or anything like that. But I used to, like, things that even with that, the were out of my control, whether it be with the Dubai Land Department or whether it be from a dispute point of view, I always used to look through it with a fine tooth comb to see if I'd done something wrong or the team around me had done something wrong. But now I just, like I said, I don't think there's any point in doing it. You still respect and you still don't want to mess up. But like I say, there's too many people around us.
Yeah. Okay, so this one might be a little bit controversial, especially to some of the newer team members, newer people to the company. So a new generation, and these aren't my words, this is what's written down, the Snowflake generation, which is apt, coming up to Christmas. Is it a reality you see coming through the ranks?
100%.
How do we define Snowflake then?
Snowflakes for me are people who they cannot deal with rejection. They blame everyone else. I don't mind if some, like say, let's say if our company is not for everyone. The way we apply ourselves, the way we run, it's not for everyone. People like work from home days and so on and so forth. Work from home days don't work. I don't care what anyone says. If you want to elevate yourself and you want to be the best at what you do, you don't have work from day home, fact. And I'll argue the toss with anyone. We've done studies over the last 2 or 3 years whereby it does not work. And the Snowflake generation they are here. And like I say, some of our older, long in the tooth guys, they still work 12, 14 hours. And is that sustainable? Probably not. But it's just because they want to be the number one. And all this, like you say, sometimes we get guys who come in and the next minute you see a bit of a trend. First week, they're on top of the world. Second week, when they've had a bit of rejection, it's like, they go missing at 5 o'clock. The next week, they might go missing at 4 o'clock. Before you know it, they blame the team. They blame whatever it may be. So they definitely are here.
Yeah, do you know, so I'll tell you in a second. The next question is, has old school definition of graft been lost? Which I think you referred to a little bit. I mean, we've got a lot of good people coming through the ranks, and there's some people who've not been with us very long, but are in the office till 6 or 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, by the way, I'm not tired of everyone with the same.
Yeah, I'm trying to backtrack a little bit for us.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
But the office has definitely changed. Like, I remember, I know you've got to that stage now where sometimes you feel like an old timer, but I remember 10 years ago, you'd be in the office at 7 o'clock at night and it'd still be buzzing with activity. There'd be loads of people around. The music could be going. People would be walking around on the phones. And when we talk about that old school definition of graft, that's what you're thinking. Like, people are at it. People are at the phones. Whereas now, come 5:30, 5:45, it's virtually empty. The office.
Do you know my thing, Paul? Right, and someone asked me the other day in one of our training sessions about working from a coffee shop with the 15 or 20 people that they had started All Sop and All Sop with. This was maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And I just said, wouldn't you want to be around the people who have been with us for 8 years, who every single week or every single month, they are in and amongst the top performers, learning from them. And you don't have to be asking them questions. It's just what they're saying, how they apply themselves, all of this information. We go on about learning and growth and everything else. That for me is the best form of learning, the best form of growth than any other person can have. And one of the people that we done our Inspire series with, and I said to him, "Why are you always in the office?" Because he can work from wherever he wants. He said, "I don't want to become irrelevant, and if I'm not in the office, whilst I'll do my own bits and bobs outside the work, I do not want to become irrelevant." And what a mindset that is, when he doesn't have to be here, you know.
So, taking that into account, do you think you've had to adapt your leadership style over the years?
Yeah. I've still got non-negotiables, which I don't care who comes in the business, what they've done. I've still got my non-negotiables, and that will never ever change. The work ethic is just, I think if you ask any coach or manager or owner of a business, I think the 2 or 3 non-negotiables will probably be the same for 90% of them. You have had to adapt because of, and it's real mental health. So you've got to be very careful and choose your words correctly. And over the last few years, we've seen, we've seen that come into play within the business. So you have to adapt. You really, really do. But again, the non-negotiables will never change for me, Paul. It will.
Yeah, you've got to retain the same core values.
You look
Otherwise, you lose your own identity and the company's identity.
And listen, I'm so glad you said that. You know, the USP of our business is we have an identity. You know, and the owners of the business and the people who lead from the front, they will not change that for anyone. And they set the bar. They set the tone for all the guys who come in the business, whether they come in tomorrow or they've been with us for the last 10 years. They set the tone, you know. But listen, you have to adapt. Like anything in life, you've got to adapt to innovation. You've got to adapt to technology. You've got to adapt to the age of people that are coming in. You have to. But again, it's all part and parcel of who we are.
So what you're just saying then leads us on to culture quite nicely in terms of like the owners of the business and setting the tone. What do you think's the most unique thing about the All Sop and All Sop culture?
Well, first of all, I think the culture is, a lot of it is set from within. And I don't mean from Carl and Lewis. I mean set within from the teams. You look at any successful football team over the last 20 years, and I'm obviously a massive Liverpool supporter, but I love listening to Roy Keane. And Roy Keane always used to say about Alex Ferguson, yeah, he made the decisions, he signed the players, he ultimately ran the whole club. He said, but we ran the dressing room. Senior members of our football club ran the dressing room, and there was probably a dozen of them at the time. We've got them with him.
Yeah, and it's a great analogy.
The culture is set from our managers and the tone that they set. Like the other day, one of our managers, Paul, he's done something where no one knew about it, and a lot of it goes under the radar as well. And first that I seen it was on Instagram. And he sent them out on a wakeboarding thing.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I saw that. Yeah,
it's brilliant. But that's a leader. That is leading for a win. Instead of me or you telling someone what to do, they're doing it themselves. And that's why our culture is so good. It's nothing to do with me. Or it's not. Listen, you've got a massive aspect, but I feel it's got the guys who are in and amongst the team and running the team day in, day out. They set the culture.
No, I agree with you. And I stand with you more in terms of being on, not the outskirts of it, but not being as involved. It's not so much down to me and you these days. It is the managers who, and whether that be fee-earning teams or non-fee-earning teams, it's the managers that are generating the culture within there.
Do you know what I think as well? And this might be a little bit controversial. I think it can be, with culture, I think we can tend to get carried away. It's company events or pool parties or all these other things. Listen, they play a part. I honestly believe that we're potentially past the pool parties. I think we've got to that point now without sounding like above me station. I think we've gone past that. But I think sometimes we come to work, like I said before. That's one thing that we've got to install into everyone. We come to work to win as much money as we can for our family. End of story. So if you're coming to work to create this culture and play games and do, which we can do, but that can tend to take over. So there's got to be a fine line, Paul. There's got to be a fine line where the balance is, listen, we're coming to work. Okay, we'll play as well. But that's a little bit down in the pecking order first. All this, if this is done properly, then we can do this.
So the next question, does a good, thriving culture really impact performance?
Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it,
It's
really?
a no-brainer, yeah. It's if you're happy coming to work, at the end of the day, you spend more time with me than what you do with Kat, your wife. You know what I mean? And the guys who you're working with, they spend more time with us than what they do with the family. And so you're sitting next to someone who you're seeing day in, day out. If you're not liking that person or they don't bring something to the table, and your leaders within who run your teams or the leaders who own the business and not making it a fun place to come, you've got a problem. You've got a problem straight away.
Big problem. I agree. Okay, on to the final part of the podcast, really, which is something that's quite apt for me and you at the moment. It's called Never Stop Learning. So the first question, I guess, as we put it, is what's one thing that you do to push yourself outside your comfort zone as a leader?
I think one thing I struggled with a lot was control and not using the people who are better than me around me enough. And I think in the last 6 months, that's something I've had to embrace. But what I've found, Paul, is I've found that that's helped me, and it's helped me because we're so busy every single day. It's helped me look at the business in a different perspective, and I think it's made me grow. What about you?
Definitely that one. I think for most people, control's a huge aspect, isn't it? And learning to delegate and give away control and trust other people within the process. I think this is going back a couple of years now, but I think podcasts, when we first started doing them, I think standing up, doing company reviews, presenting to people was uncomfortable at first. But in a weird way, I like being in uncomfortable situations. I might not like it at the time, but it's. I think it's good to push yourself and develop you. At the moment, the company is growing and evolving in so many different ways. There's so many opportunities to push. We're both doing online courses at the moment. I don't think there's any harm in admitting that, just in terms of business strategies and management and et cetera, et cetera. So even doing that and then looking to bring ideas into the workplace is it out the comfort zone, but it's certainly something we've not done over the last 16 years. So it's a new angle and a new approach.
Listen, if anything like that, and we both embraced definitely the courses that we're doing. I think sometimes with me, Paul, it was maybe a bit of ignorance as well, because you found yourself and maybe comfortable because you were doing things day in, day out. And like you say, them things will never change, but not pushing yourself, And I know you definitely have in the last 12 months putting yourself out there, and I know I have with the things that you just mentioned then. And sometimes the first couple that you do, especially the podcast, are a little bit daunting, aren't they? Because listen, the last thing I want to be doing sometimes is going on camera, but it just helps. It definitely does.
Definitely. I don't know, I've just said definitely after you said definitely. Next one. How do you stay ahead of the curve in a constantly changing business world?
Good question.
I think the courses play part of it.
I think the courses play a massive part. I think AI started to take over my life. It's
in a good way, though, in a great way.
Listen, do you know what I think is what's helped me, Paul, as well, is the roles that we're, the people that we're employing. Like you said before, the likes of Sergey, our CTO, Natalia, our CPO, all of our people, what are they called?
Partners, people partners,
yeah. All of these things, I hate saying this, but I always feel that we may be first to do it, and you'll see other people tend to come to the party, but listen, good luck to them. But I just think it's helping us evolve and again, it goes back to embracing this and embracing the people who I believe are a lot better at jobs. Because all these jobs let's delve right into it. These are all jobs that we've done in the past. I'm not saying a CPO, but we've been that go-to.
But we kind of had, maybe not to the experience and the level that people are doing it now. But
exactly.
We've held the position of having to do it in elements.
Whereas now, to go to Natalia is a lot more qualified than what me and you are. And like you say, you look at the tech side, look at the marketing side. And the marketing is just, I believe, is so slick at the moment. But again, I think learning from these guys and what their innovations are and things like that, I just think always, and I was never probably involved as much as you should be with that side of things, but now with like the automations and AI and the marketing side, it's just, I find it fascinating. I really, really do.
Yeah, and it's just that constant exploration of new ideas, new technology, constant online learning. And I don't just mean courses. I mean, you can Google, you can set up alerts, see what's going on in the world, constant podcasts and development in that way. Okay, last one, then we're gonna finish up. So, people, product, or processes, where should you invest the most when scaling a business?
I think processes are so important, because if you don't have processes and you are scaling the business with a massive recruitment drive, you've got a free-for-all, and you've got people coming in who essentially haven't got a structure on what they want to do, whether that be from onboarding to going onto the floor training, going onto the floor, the whole process with areas that they get put in, what we feel are the best structures in place to get them. Listen, ultimately, you want them to do a deal as quickly as possible. But if there's no processes, then there's just, you're setting yourself up for a fail straight away. Because the rest will follow. If you have that, People come in, people know exactly what to do, whether that be from leadership, whether that be from a marketing side, whether that be from senior management, and the rest will just follow. Do you think the same?
100%. I don't think you can do it without processes. I think we spoke about football a couple of times. To put it into a football analogy, you can buy 10 of the best players in the world, but if you've not got a manager who puts a process in place for them to play, then they're going to be 10 individuals on a pitch, not playing together, not producing any results. So
do you know what
you have to have the process.
I find, Paul, the processes as well, very basic at times.
Oh, yeah. And I think sometimes people get confused when, as soon as you say process, people think, oh, no, it's going to be pages and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. A process can be 4 bullet points.
Yeah.
They don't have to be like these big elongated things, and processes will change and evolve over time. It's not like a process is set in stone, but you just have to, there has to be a process that you go by at that particular moment in time.
And with the process, I think they need to be revisited all the time.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
And I think they need to be, so people, again, it's a silly analogy. I always, when you get out of bed in the morning, you do exactly the same thing every single day from when you can brush your teeth. It's the same as this. We want our brokers, if the agents, to do exactly the same thing every single day, probably 2 or 3 things. And then obviously that just leads in then to whether it be protective time, whether it be then you go out in the afternoon, you do what essentially gets you paid. But that small detail, it just stands you in good stead for whatever you're doing I think whatever you're doing in life as well.
Agree completely.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation. Any questions, any objections to any ideas or concepts that we've shared, please let us know. And then please like, follow, do all the usual stuff in all the usual places. Thank you. And if you don't watch another podcast from us this year, have a very happy Christmas.